Hello, everybody. Greetings. What's going on? What's happening? It's your girl Tiffany coming through here live in effect. And tonight I am going to be doing a topic about Ella Little Collins. But make sure you guys hit the notification bell, subscribe to the channel, share this YouTube channel, and also check out the contents and share the videos and all that great stuff. So tonight I'm going to be dealing with the topic about Ella Little Collins. So she was the late sister of Malcolm X. All right. So she has played an important role in Malcolm's life. Okay, she really has. And not only that, she also have done some work of her own. She also tried to keep Malcolm's legacy alive. All right, so I have some information that I would like to present that's going to be very useful for this topic, for this video. All right, so I have an article and I have a book. It's a family memoir, which is called The Seventh Child. The Seventh Child is written by the nephew of Malcolm X, who is Robert Collins. I believe that's his name. I don't know what his name is. I'm sorry, it's Ronell Collins. That's his name, Ronell P. Collins, who is the son of Ella Collins and also the nephew of Malcolm X. So he's telling the story about Malcolm's life and also about his mother. Now, many may wonder, well, how come we never heard much about Malcolm's family when it came down to the history? We always hear about if we do hear about the family of Malcolm, we'll hear about his wife, Betty Shabazz, and we didn't even hear much about her. We didn't even know much about who she was. And you may hear about his daughters every now and then. But what people don't know is that Malcolm's family member was in the Nation of Islam before he was. And his sister happened to be one of them. She joined the nation before Malcolm did. And then she left the nation before Malcolm, all right, and converted to Orthodox Islam. So it was his sister that helped him to get the to get the money and take a Hajj to Mecca. It was his sister. So to say this, to say all that, she has really played that role, but it's funny that she's never really talked about or never really discussed in history. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Make sure you guys hit that notification bell. Make sure you share the channel and make sure you subscribe and do all that great stuff. And appreciate every last one of you for subscribing to my channel. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So first and foremost, I want to show you guys who the picture of Ella Little Collins. So as you can see, that's the picture of Malcolm and his sister at the time. And he mentioned her a lot in the autobiography book, which I have in my hand. This book right here. Okay. So if you guys don't have the autobiography, please get it. Please. Okay. Also, let me show you another picture of her later in life. Now, she passed away in 1996. All right. All right, so that's his sister again. That's her later in life. All right, then. All right, so that's the information about her. So let's read it. All right. So Ella Little Collins, she was born in 1914. She died in 1996. All right. And she was an American civil rights activist and the half sister of Malcolm X. She was born in Butler, Georgia, to Earl Little and Daisy Little. Her paternal grandparents were John Lee Little and Ella Little, and her siblings were Mary Little and Earl Lee Little Jr. She had 7 half siblings from her father's second marriage: Wilford, Filbert, Hilda, Reginald, Malcolm, Wesley, and Yvonne. She worked as a congressman, Adam Klein Howell's, Adam Klein Powell's secretary, the manager of her mother's grocery store, and an investor in house property which she let out as rooming houses. She joined the Nation of Islam in the mid-1950s and helped establish its mosque in Boston and a daycare center attached to it, although she left the Nation of Islam in 1959 to become a Sunni Muslim. She supported Black and ethnic studies program in universities across the United States and founded the Sarah A. Little School of Preparatory Arts in Boston. All right, so Ella Collins lived most of her life in Boston. All right, so she was born in Georgia, Butler, Georgia, but she pretty much grew up in Boston. Okay, that's where she spent most of her life at. And she joined the Nation of Islam before Malcolm did. And not only she joined the nation, but she also helped build the temple or helped establish the temple in Boston and establish the daycare center. So she put in the community work and working for Adam Clay Powell Jr. at that time as well. So let's go ahead and look up some more information. What else can we find? In his autobiography, Malcolm X wrote about the impact his first meeting with his half-sister had on him. She came to visit when he was in 7th grade, and he described her as the first really proud Black woman I ever seen, and wrote, I had never been so impressed with anybody. At the end of the school year, he moved to Roxbury to live with her, and she was his guardian until he was 21. Her home, the Malcolm X Ella Little Collins house, is the last known surviving childhood home of Malcolm X. Its exterior was designated a Boston landmark by the Boston Landmarks Commission in 1998 and was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2021. So that was recently. When Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam in 1964, Little Collins paid for him to make the Hajj. She also paid his funeral and business expenses after his assassination and took over his organization of Afro-American Unity. Yes, she took over, including his project of giving 35 scholarships from Al-Azhar University in Cairo, Egypt, and from the University of Ghana to students wishing to study overseas. So she took over, and she also gave away scholarship for those who wanted to go to Egypt and also study in Ghana as well. So yeah. So if you guys don't know anything about the organization of Afro-American Unity, let's pull it up real fast. All right. So the organization of Afro-American Unity was a Pan-Africanist organization founded by Malcolm X in 1964. The OAAU was modeled on the Organization of African Unity, which had impressed Malcolm X during his visit to Africa in April and May of 1964. The purpose of the OAAU was to fight for the human rights of African Americans and promote cooperation among Africans and people of African descent in the Americas. Check this out. Malcolm X announced the establishment of the OAAU at a public meeting in New York's Audubon Ballroom on June 28, 1964. He had written the group's charter with John Henry Clark, Albert Cleage, Jesse Gray, and Gloria Richardson, among others. In a memo dated July the 2nd of 1964, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover described the nascent OAAU as a threat to the national security of the United States. All right, so down here it says Malcolm X, along with John Henry Clark, wrote the following into the Organization of Afro-American Unity Basic Unity Program. Restoration in order to release ourselves from the oppression of our enslavers, then it is absolutely necessary for the Afro-American to restore communication with Africa. Second is reorientation. We can learn about Africa by reading informative books and by listening to the experiences of those who have traveled there. The third one is education. The Organization of Afro-American Unity will devise original educational methods and procedure which will liberate the minds of our children. We will encourage qualified Afro-Americans to write and publish the textbooks needed to liberate our minds, educating them, our children at home. And number 4 is economic security. After the Emancipation Proclamation, it was realized that the Afro-American constituted the largest homogeneous ethnic group with a common origin and common group experience in the United States. And if allowed to exercise economic or political freedom, would in a short period of time own this country. We must establish a technician bank. We must do this so that the newly independent nations of Africa can turn to us, who are their brothers, for technicians they will need now and in the future. And the 5th one is self-defense. In order to enslave a people and keep them subjugated, their right to self-defense must be denied. We encourage the Afro-Americans to defend themselves against the wanton attacks of the racist aggressors whose sole aim is to deny us the guarantee of the United Nations Charter of Human Rights and of the Constitution of the United States. All right. All right, so you see? So that's the information about the Organization of the Afro-American Unity. All right, so it didn't last very long. However, Little Collins tried to do what she did what she could to try to keep the organization alive. But because Malcolm being the PowerPoint and the center and the main person of this organization, it just couldn't last. So she just she decided to let it go, basically. All right, so let's go back and continue. Now, it says in 1988, both of Little Collins' legs were amputated due to gangrene. She died in 1996. The Ella Collins Institute at the Islamic Society of Boston Cultural Center is named after her. Its goal is to establish a vibrant community by joining a classical understanding of Islam with modern scholarship and a healthy understanding of the current cultural context. And as you can see, there's information at the bottom of the page. And then you can find the further reading right here at the bottom as well. So I'm currently going to read this book called The Seventh Child, a family memoir of Malcolm X. And then here's the external link as well. All right, so let's go to an article. Well, before I get to the article, let me go ahead and read some of the chapters in this book, The Autobiography of Malcolm X. So right here in chapter 3, he writes about how when he first met up with her in Boston and the stories that she used to tell him about other relatives in Georgia, because she was from Georgia. All right, so he wrote, Ella told me about other relatives from that branch of the family. A number of them I never heard of. She had helped them up from Georgia. They, in their turn, had helped up others. We littles have to stick together. Ella said, it thrilled me to hear her say that, and even more the way she said it. I had become a mascot. Our branch of the family was split to pieces. I I had just about forgotten about being a little in any family sense. She said that different members of the family were working in good jobs, and some even had small businesses going. Most of them were homeowners. All right. So, and then also at the back of the book, if you guys read the back of it, all right. So I'm just gonna read the part where he so right down here it says it was not all as simple as it may sound. I went few places without constant awareness that any number of my former brothers felt they would make heroes of themselves in the nation of Islam if they killed me. I knew how Elijah Muhammad's followers thought. I had taught so many of them to think. I knew that no one would kill you quicker than a Muslim if he felt that's what Allah wanted him to do. Therefore, there was one further major preparation that I knew I needed. I had it in my mind for a long time as a servant of Allah, but it would require money that I didn't have. I took a plane to Boston. I was turning again to my sister Ella, though at times I made Ella angry at me beneath it all, since I had first come to her as a teenage hick from Michigan. Ella had never once really wavered from my corner. Ella, I said, I want to make the pilgrimage to Mecca. Ella said, how much do you need? So she was the one that was able to help him financially to get to Mecca from the United States because he didn't have the money. He didn't have the revenue. So you guys have to read the autobiography. Hello, what's up? What's going on, Philip? Thank you for coming through. I appreciate that. I really do. All right, and then let me go ahead and show you guys another article here. So Ella, the woman who led Malcolm X, she had played a very significant role in my life. No other woman was strong enough to point me in direction. I pointed women in direction, and now she was financing me to Mecca. All right, so it was written in October the 18th of 2020 by Usta Fatima Barkatullah. All right, so right here it mentions in this article that Ella Little Collins was Malcolm X's elder sister from his father's first wife. Ella made it her business to travel all the way from the buzzing metropolis of Boston, where she lived, to the smaller town of Lansing, Michigan, to see how her half-siblings were faring. Motivated by her father's instruction to nurture Malcolm's potential in the event of his own untimely demise, Ella was keen to take her half-brother under her wing. She would later say in interviews that since Malcolm was the seventh child of the family, the old superstitious belief was that he would be supernaturally gifted. Meeting Ella, the self-made businesswoman involved in property in Boston and New York, Malcolm remarked that she was the first really proud Black woman I have ever seen, and that he had never been so impressed with anybody. Ella wasn't just Black, but like our father, she was jet black. The way she sat, moved, talked, did everything bespoke somebody who did and got exactly what she wanted. This was the woman my father had boasted of so often for having brought so many of their family out of Georgia to Boston. She owned some property, he would say, and she was in society. She had come north with nothing, and she had worked and saved and had invested in property that she built up in value. And then she started sending money to Georgia for another sister, brother, cousin, niece, or nephew to come north to Boston. All that I had heard was reflected in Ella's appearance and bearing. All right, so it says Ella's role as Malcolm's mother figure was cement when she became his legal guardian from age 14 to 21, along with her husband, Kenneth Jack Collins, far from trying to suppress Malcolm's inclination towards aggressive behavior and impulsiveness. Ella said she stimulated it, allowing this side of his masculinity the space for expression, hoping to discipline and challenge it. As Malcolm grew older, he drifted in and out of her life and fell into the gangster lifestyle she so disapproved of. Even when in prison, she preserved it and advising him through visits, letters, and books. When at last she said that he began to face up to facts. All right. So this is how she embraces the Islam. Although both Ella and Malcolm became members of the Black separatist group, the Nation of Islam, it was Ella who decided in 1959 to leave the Nation of Islam and embrace Orthodox Islam. She began studying with Muslim teachers in the Orthodox Masjid in Quincy, Massachusetts, and took her Shahada there. The Nation of Islam quickly suspended her. Yes, I do have that book, actually. I have the book called The Roots, Philip. I don't think, well, I don't think it had anything to do with Malcolm. I don't think it had anything to do with Malcolm per se, but that was just more so his life and how he grew up. So, um, Dick Gregory alluded to the fact that Alice Haley edited the facts due to the deadly atmosphere. Well, I have to go back and reread that book, but I know that the book was supposed to be about his family lineage and bloodline going back to West Africa, particularly in Gambia. So even though he may have used some of the fictional characters to describe his bloodline, now I also know that in that book, The Roots, there was a lawsuit taking place because it was supposedly that he has taken some of the information from another author who wrote a book about the Africans and African Americans and their descendancy in West Africa. So I haven't heard anything about Malcolm. That's my first time hearing about that. Yeah. But let me go ahead and continue. All right, so she put, then it says, I was glad there was an Islamic alternative to the Nation of Islam, she later said in her son's family memoir. I also knew that it was a matter of time before Malcolm made a similar move. She also founded the Sarah A. Little School of Preparatory Arts in Boston, where children were taught the Quran, Arabic, Swahili, and other subjects. She began to try to influence Malcolm in opening his heart to Islam, as Malcolm said. I've said before, this is a strong, big, black, Georgia-born woman. Her demurring ways had gotten her put out of the Nation of Islam Boston Mosque 11. They took her back, then she left on her own. Ella had started studying under Boston Orthodox Muslim. Then she founded a school where Arabic was taught. She couldn't speak it. She hired teachers who did. That's Ella. She deals in real estate, and she was saving up to make the pilgrimage. Nearly all night, we talked in her living room. So, and then she put, by the early 1960s, Ella later told her son, Malcolm had become convinced of the need for our Afro-Americans to have a stronger connection with Orthodox Islam. Malcolm was frustrated that the nation's teaching were not congruous with the Quran. He was also intrigued by the vast Muslim African heritage that gave Afro-Americans a connection to something transcending white supremacy, slavery, segregation, and Christianity. All right, so let me go ahead and read one more. It says that Ella was intensely proud of the changes in him after his return as Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz in 1964. He had embraced Islam at the Islamic Foundation in New York on April the 9th of 1964. Upon returning from his trip abroad later that year, he proudly presented to Ella his Shahada certificate from Al-Azhar University in Cairo. Ella was Malcolm's confidant. She recalls how Malcolm returned home with two clear causes in his mind. The first was that of spreading Orthodox Islam in America, for which he set up his Muslim Mosque Inc. or incorporation, and wrote to the Nation Islam official urging them to embrace mainstream Islam. The second was his fight for human rights for all Black Americans, for which he set up the Organization for Afro-American Unity as a vehicle. She described it as a maturation of his outlook and saw a newfound serenity in him. Malcolm came home a man, she would later say. He lost his frustration and his desire for material gains. After he gave his first speech at Harvard University, Ella said that she gave him her very own diploma, saying, "Tonight, Malcolm, you are a man. I traveled hard, didn't I?" He remarked to his sister. "Yes, you did," she replied, "but you made it." Just some of the lessons that we as Muslims can glean from Ella's life are: refuse to be a statistic, despise the tragic circumstances of one's family history. With greater prosperity comes greater responsibility. All right. To nurture and invest in the potential of others can be more powerful than to be the most visible protagonist ourselves. It is important to stay connected and involved in the lives of our extended family, despite the ups and downs and rejection we might be subject to during the course of their lives. Be a role model. Ella had the personality and conviction that Malcolm wished came more naturally to him. When we are rooted and unapologetically by our heritage and confident in the skin that Allah created us in, our self-assurance gives the younger generation wings. It says the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "Whoever guides someone to goodness will have a reward like one who did it." All right, so it then goes on further down in this article. It says, what is less well known is that Ella was instrumental in preventing revenge attacks, which countless people were offered to carry out in the aftermath of Malcolm's assassination. She was also very protective over Malcolm's legacy, disparagingly calling the film portrayals and writings that emerged following his death symbolism without substance. She felt his deeply held Islamic beliefs and vision were being downplayed, and his more mature political ideas had been erased with the removal of 5 chapters of the autobiography from Alice Haley's final manuscript. And Ella would later remark that Malcolm's murderers took something from me that I put a lot into. Ella believed that Malcolm was at the point where he could become stronger than ever. I could see Malcolm becoming the greatest Black man in the history of the world. Over the span of her life, Ella had married 3 times and had a son named Ronell. Ella tirelessly continued her struggle for civil rights and the teaching of Islam in America until 1988, when she suffered the amputation of both her legs from serious infection. All right. So Malcolm's reverence for Ella was palpable until the end. 2 weeks prior to his assassination, Malcolm advised his nephew Rynell, who described it thus: Uncle Malcolm had called me aside one day while visiting us at home in Boston, Massachusetts, was in the kitchen. Ma was in the kitchen with her pots and pans, and Uncle Malcolm sitting in my favorite lounge chair and took my hand to express his concern for my future. With the press of his palm to mine, a stern look and a twinkle in his eye, he said, Rynell, I want you to promise me something. You will always listen to your mother. I wish I had. If you do, you'll do all right, Rynell. Ella once said in an interview that Malcolm needed 10 more years to complete the work he had started. All right, so this was the article that was written by Islam21c.com. All right, check this article out, okay? Oh, okay, I thought you was. Okay, yes, Malcolm X's autobiography, yes, was published after his death. Yeah. Yeah, it was. Because Alice Haley was the one that interviewed him. All right, then, brother. Thank you for tuning in. You have a good one. All right, you have a good one, brother. Whew. Okay, so let's take a look at the memoir, which was written by the nephew of Malcolm X. So again, you don't hear much about his other half, his family. As you can see, the seventh child, a family memoir of Malcolm X. So here's the table of content. Omawale, the son has come home. Ajar, homecoming. Orphis, Ella, brothers and sisters, Muhammad's Temple of Islam, Nation of Islam. The Split, Part 1, Judas I. Split, Part 2, Recommitment of Faith, 11, in Awakening. And the 12, the OAAU, the pre-assassination. 13, the assassination. And chapter 14, Symbolism Without Substance. All right, so let's read about Ella, his sister. All right, so let's see what we can find in this chapter right here. Whatever information was not covered, let's see what else. All right, so it says, since Black history was not taught in the Boston public schools in the early 1950s, she actually hired a private tutor, Forrest Scott, to teach me. He was succeeded by another tutor, A. Jarrett, with whom Ma became close friends. Mr. Jarrett later helped us with the organization of Afro-American Unity, which was founded by Uncle Malcolm when he left the Nation of Islam. Mom's run-in with Louise Day Hicks was not an isolated incident. She also had several confrontations with the Boston Police Department over their often hostile and disrespectful treatment of Black people. One that I remember most vividly occurred over bicycles. Mom and I were working with 20 disadvantaged children from Boston's South End. One of those, the one we particularly loved, was Jackie Barrow, who at 10 years of age helped his mother sell newspaper in Boston's neighborhoods such as Back Bay, downtown, and the South End from sun up until late at night. Since they had no transportation, they walked some 30 miles daily to complete their route. That was a lot of work for so young a child who also had to attend school. Mom decided that we could help Jackie by providing him with a bicycle. He continued to sell papers. The bike would then be his free of charge. This worked so well that we decided to provide bikes for other children for working and recreational purposes. This enabled us to take them on bike trips and feed them wholesome food. We also fed them in our home at 486 Massachusetts Avenue, Massachusetts. No, excuse me, yeah, 486 Massachusetts Avenue. Mom, who purchased the bikes with her own money, believed that children would be more appreciative of what they were receiving if they had to pay a small fee for the bike trips. So they were asked to pay $1 for a bike and all they could eat. We provide everything else. As often happens, some parents began grumbling and accused us of scheming to get portion of their welfare checks. Members of the Boston Police Department, especially Division 4, and its detectives, with whom we had often locked horns, believed that nigger woman was up to something. They got a search warrant to raid 486 Massachusetts Avenue, the apartment building in which we lived and which Mom owned at the time. Early one morning, without first knocking, they broke down the front doors of many apartments in the building, including ours. They confiscated all the bikes we had for the children, claiming they were stolen property. We went to court and Mom whipped them every way possible. They had no proof that we had done anything criminal. Not only did the judge find in Mom's favor, he ordered the police to personally return the bikes to our building. It was the first time in history that a Black person had won a court case against the Boston Police Department, the oldest such police force in the country. So that goes to show that's why Malcolm admired his sister, because she was a powerful force. And because she was a powerful force, she was able to use her voice and be able to stand up for herself. So that's what she did in this case, where she was accused of stealing bikes and scheming residents out their money. Come to find out, she was innocent and she has not committed any wrongdoings or any crime. So all her items was retrieved to her. So she was a very strong Southern woman, and she let it be known that that's what she was. All right, so if you guys want to check out more information about this book, you can. It's called The Seventh Child, which was written by Ronell P. Collins, the nephew of Malcolm X. Okay? You can find this book on thearchive.org. All right? So this is his family giving the accounts of his life, as well as his sister. And all that they have done, and his legacy and her legacy. So if you want to find out more information, you can just go on here. You can just find so many information regarding to African American history on this website, because it's all only thing it is a PDF. That's all it is. So you guys can check it out for yourself, and it's free to borrow. Now they have a icon on here where you can purchase if you want to purchase the book, but for the most part you can check it out for free, and then you can borrow it for a couple of hours, or you can borrow them for a couple of weeks, etc. So yeah, make sure you guys check it out. Seventh Child, a family memoir of Malcolm X. All right. All right then. So with that being said, you know what? I was thinking maybe should I play the interview? Well, you know what? I'm not gonna play the video, but you guys can also check her out on YouTube. Check the videos out. Ella Collins, Malcolm was born the way he was. So you guys can check the interview out. As a matter of fact, I can show you the information. Hold on. So that's the video clip. You guys can just go ahead and check out that video if you guys wanna, if y'all want to look into it. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning in, watching. This is Tiffany French, and this information is dealing with the month of Women's History. So, I mean, the month of March, which is Women's History Month. And that's when you recognize all the women that has made a contribution, not just here in America, but throughout the entire world. But for me, I would like for this to be an honor for the sisters in our community, for the African American women and the African women throughout the diaspora, and what they have done so far, and how they have made their contribution here in society and in the community as well. Because we get underestimated for the works that is doing in our community. Of course, Black women always receive the back end of the stick, and there's a lot of stereotypes regarding to Black women, as far as we're just belligerent, or Black women are just angry, and all the negativity. But it's not much positivity being put out there in the light to show what these women have done and how the women has really contributed in society and in the community. Despite the fact that Black women have so many problems taking place, but also at the same time, there are sisters that have done a lot of work and did a lot of things that really brought some form of empowerment to the people. All right. Anyways, take it easy on yourselves. Please be safe. And I will reconnect with you guys later. So please make sure you check out my channel, subscribe to it, hit the notification bell, share the video, share the contents, all that great stuff. And be on the lookout for the next video. All right. And thank you guys so much. I really appreciate that. And I shout out to all the new subscribers. I really appreciate you all subscribing to this channel. Hopefully you guys find the information pretty useful. You can just go to the sources that I posted up, like the literary sources. You can just find them on the internet. You can also find books on various topics as well. So that's just my whole thing, just present literary sources, get into different topics dealing with African history, African American, sociology, psychology, anthropology, current events, things of that nature. So there's various contents on my page. But anyways, Until then, take it easy. All right. Thank you. Peace.